Is Eric on?
I
Yes,
see his name there, yep.
Okay. Let's
You hear me,
see.
Jim?
Are we ready?
Yes.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the
United States of America, to the
to the
republic
religion,
which it stands,
One
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 nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
Councilman Kitchen,
Here.
Councilman Morrow, can you hear me, John? He's on mute. You're on mute. Councilman Secreto,
Here,
Councilman Van Cleek,
here and accounted for.
and Supervisor Quigley.
Present. Thank you. Welcome to the Town of Ulstertown Board meeting for Thursday, March 18th, 2021. Again, we are holding our meeting through the benefits of technology, and hopefully we will have a discussion to resume in-person meetings, I believe, probably the first week in May. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
none from me.
Okay. Any members of the public that are on Zoom that have items that are on the agenda they wish to make comments on? Thank you very much. The town clerk has distributed the minutes of the meeting for the February 4th, 2021 workshop and the February 18th town board meeting. May I have a motion to accept the minutes into the records of the town?
I'll make the motion.
And a second,
Second.
may we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow, Councilman Secreto,
Yes,
Councilman Van Cleek,
Yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Reevy, are there any items for communications at tonight's meeting?
Oh, no, I have no communications this evening.
Okay.
No, it's over there.
Mr. Van Cleek,
yes, sir.
abstract of claims.
Yes, I went through the abstract of claims. It was a light month compared to the previous. We had $151,384.02 in prepaids. We had $158,536.55 in the abstract bills. We had escrow of $875, so we had a total of $310,795.57.
May I have a motion asking for approval of the abstract of claims?
I'll make it.
We have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen, Councilman Morrow, Councilman Secreto,
Yes,
Councilman Van Cleek,
Yes,
and Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. There are no budget modifications for the current year for tonight's meeting. And the final budget modifications for the 2020 year will be presented at the April meeting upon closure of the books prior to audit by our independent auditors. So moving forward to the new business section of our agenda. First item is a presentation and acceptance of the town clerk's monthly report for the month of February. Ms. Reevy, is there anything you wish to call to our attention?
Nothing out of the ordinary, no.
Okay. May I have a motion to accept the town clerk's report for the month of February?
So moved.
second,
Second, roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow,
He's still muted.
yeah,
And we have a thumbs up, John?
his video is off as well.
He's not even
Um,
Can you unmute him, Sue?
I tried. Councilman, should I move on?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. Next item on our agenda is a motion to accept the resignation of part-time officer Jordan Kilfoyle. And may I have a motion accepting the resignation in good standing?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow,
yes,
Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Secreto or Mr. Van Cleek, the next item on the hire?
I have it.
Thank you.
This is a request from our chief of police. For a hire, the employee's name would be Michael J. Ryan, part-time police officer for the police department, comes out of the general fund. Position would be part-time, no civil service, union position is yes, contract with the PBA, no health insurance, be a step one. Wage would be $23.63. Start date would be 3/22/2021. It comes at the request of Chief Berardi. Mr. Ryan retired from the Kingston Police Department after a 33-year career in law enforcement. And make a motion to hire Michael J. Ryan to the police department.
I'll second the motion.
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow,
yes,
Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next resolution is a referral from the Town of Ulster Planning Board for final site plan approval for the Industrial Arts Brewing Company, Project 829, located at 268 Forest Hill Drive, Kingston, New York, section block and lot 48.13-3-16.100. This is the project constructed by Joe Stote. It was two igloos type buildings that were constructed on the corner of Forest Hill Drive and Route 28. Mr. Stote originally was going to use them for an agricultural greenhouse application. Shortly after he completed the project's construction, his father passed away and he put the buildings on the market. The applicant wishes to use the buildings for the distribution of, I would say, boutique beer. So may I have a motion to accept the resolution as
I'll
presented?
make it.
Is there a second? I see Mr.
Second.
Morrow.
Yeah, I would say it's John, Councilman Morrow. Okay,
Roll call,
Councilman,
please.
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow,
yes,
Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next item on our agenda is a referral from the Town of Ulster Planning Board in relation to the Bank of America building at 101-899 Enterprise Drive. This is the building that Ulster County foreclosed on Ulster Business Complex for the non-payment of taxes. There is a tenant in the East Campus that is an agricultural use. They cook and process and package foods. So we have a referral from the site, from the Town Planning Board for a site plan approval for the Farm Bridge. It's project number 828, 101 to 899 Enterprise Drive, Kingston. Section block and lot number 48.7-1-29.100. This will be a reconfiguration of the southernmost portion of the two-story building towards Boyce's Lane for 40,000 square feet. And I believe an additional construction of 9,000 square feet comprised of refrigerated storage and dock space for the loading of trucks. So the next step for the tenant in perfecting this is to proceed with the county, who is now the landlord, and negotiate a lease to move forward, and then present a set of plans for the issuance of a building permit with our building department. So may I have a motion to accept the resolution as presented?
So move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow,
Yes.
Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next item comes to us as a referral from the planning board for site plan approval with a lot line deletion for 721, 723 Ulster Avenue. This is the site of the old Paulina's Restaurant across the street from Xenon's. The owner wishes to convert the building to 9 residential living units over a laundromat, along with the deletion of the lot line that separates the front parcel from the back parcel. And he has a tenant for the warehouse space in the back. So there is a resolution for site plan approval with lot line deletion for Albany 7 LLC. It's project 815 and 816, 721 and 723 Ulster Avenue, Kingston, SBL 48.58-5-37 and 48.58-5-21.120. May I have a motion to accept the resolution as presented?
So move.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow,
Yes.
Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next item on our agenda is a resolution authorizing the town of Ulster to enter into an agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation, the Mark Kelly's program, in the amount of $96,000 for the design of improvements for the Boyces Lane CSX Railroad Traffic Signal Engineering Project, PIN number 8933.07, and authorizing the supervisor to sign all documents required for the project. This project started in 2013 with a review report performed by Creighton Manning under a contract from the Ulster County Transportation Council for the redesign of the CSX railroad crossing at Morton Boulevard. This will include the placement of new gates, pedestrian gates, protecting pedestrians from crossing the railroad while a train comes, along with the replacement of the traffic signals and the controls for those traffic signals at Morton Boulevard and Boyces Lane. The reason that this has taken so long to move forward to this point relates to the source of the funding, where there was great negotiations between Region 8, Poughkeepsie DOT, and the Railroad Agency and the Home Office of New York State DOT and the Federal Railroad Commission, along with CSX on CSX's plans for the west of Hudson Line corridor. If you recall, about 5 years ago, CSX came to the town to inform us that they were going to double track that section. And then there was a change in the economy. They had a change in management. The plan went away and they had to start over with the DOT. So tonight, we're going to start this project from a town of Ulster's point of view. The town will be sponsor of the project. We will go out for a request for qualifications from engineers to design this program, which is expected to cost about $96,000. Then upon completion of the design phase, we will go back to the DOT where they will approve it and then proceed to the bidding and construction phase. So may I have a motion to accept the resolution as presented?
I'll make it.
So move.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
okay, Councilman Morrow, Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next item under new business is a resolution authorizing for the advertisement for contract number TU 212 the furnishing of the influence screening equipment for the Ulster wastewater treatment facility due April 9th, 2021. Before I call for a motion to accept the resolution, Mr. Majori, could you just
Yes.
briefly explain the process here and what we are doing?
This piece of equipment that we're looking to go out for purchase and to install is a piece of equipment to remove all of the foreign debris, the garbage that is being flushed down the sewers. This debris clogs up the pumps, clogs up the tanks, fouls the digesters, causes major problems throughout the whole plant and treatment process. So this is the best application to the best process to remove this right at the source of the plant and take care of that problem right from the start.
Do you believe, Mr. Majori, that this will bring operational efficiencies to the?
Yes, this process will help the pumps pump more effectively and more efficiently without being fouled up by rags. It will reduce the amount of work, man hours on cleaning out all of the pumps and equipment, and as well as pumping down all the tanks and having to clean the rags off of all the mechanisms in the tanks. This is a major problem throughout the whole world. And it's only gotten worse with the COVID pandemic, the increase in wipes, gloves, masks, all that debris that is getting sent down the toilets.
Vincent, I do notice now that the snow is melted away that we have a lot of the wipes on the ground right now. The ShopRite area is full of them on the ground. So you got an onslaught coming at you.
Yeah, that also affects the stormwater system. It's a problem for every type of sewer, that we can look at. It's clogging up drains, clogging up pipes. It's a major problem, and due to the pandemic, it's only getting worse with the increase of all these materials.
Any other questions for Mr. Majori from the board?
No. But I'll make
Kind of
a
schedule,
motion.
do you think, I was going to ask Vincent when he thinks he would have this completed?
Well, this equipment, I believe they said we should see it by summertime. So as soon as we can get it in, it's going to be a pretty quick install. We're going to be doing the work in-house. A lot of the plumbing and electrical modifications will be done before the equipment ever arrives to the plant. We'll have this prepped and ready to go, and as soon as we get the equipment in, it should be a relatively quick install.
Any additional comments from the board?
No, I make a motion to move ahead.
Do I have a
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow, Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
Yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next item on our agenda is a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign an engineering agreement by and between the town of Ulster and Bernier and Larios for the Spring Lake Sewer System Phase 2 design for an amount not to exceed $23,000. As you all know, 2 weeks ago, the town submitted its grant application to DHCR for the Spring Lake Phase 2 sewer project in the amount of $1 million approximately. In analyzing the performance of the town in the last two projects, and by the town, I mean collectively all resources from outside engineering consultants through regulatory agencies who were required to approve through the internal departments that constructed. We have a problem with the process at the front end between the design timeline and the approval timeline that adversely impacts the construction and implementation of the project, causing our highway superintendent, Mr. Petronwall, great anguish as we come down towards the end of construction season, usually trying to meet a grant deadline. So to avoid, or an attempt to avoid the same problem with this grant, I'm asking for permission to authorize the design of the project and the commitment of $23,000 from the town's funds to design this project in advance of us receiving the grant so that we are prepared to expeditiously put the plans into the DEC for approval upon execution of the grant contracts. Now, hopefully, if everything goes according to the rules, we should have a comfortable timeline to construct and put this project into service once that happens. So with that statement being made, may I have a motion to authorize the
I'll make the
supervisor?
motion.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion from the board on this matter? Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow, Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next item is a resolution authorizing the awarding of a contract for furnishing and installing one MPE SC 2000 variable speed pump controller. Mr. Majuri, could you give us a brief explanation of this project?
Yes, this project is a pump panel control replacement for our main influent pump station at the Town of Ulster plant. Currently, our system was installed in 1999. All of the components in the panel are obsolete. It's costing us a lot of money to maintain that panel, and we are at a great risk of anything catastrophic happening, trying to source those components to replace it and repair it. Currently, I've been working with a company out of North Carolina to source these refurbished components, and we pay a premium for them. This is a modern consolidated control unit that has all the modern bells and whistles that we can link to data logging and SCADA systems. So this is going to be a good moving forward item to get put in and help operate more efficiently.
So with that explanation made, so may I have a motion accepting the resolution as presented?
I'll make it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the resolution? Roll
Councilman
call,
Kitchen,
please.
Yes.
Councilman Morrow, Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
yes,
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to state for the record that the two matters discussed tonight, the bar screen project and the pump controller project, along with a replacement boiler project that is underway at the wastewater treatment plant, are all component parts of an engineering study that the town had completed about 2 years ago that did a complete review of our entire plant and made recommendations for various upgrades that totaled approximately $6 million if we were to undertake all the replacements at once. We have selected, as a matter of economy, to move ahead on the parts that we can do in-house and narrow down the scope of the work that has to be done down there using outside contractors. And then we're hoping to see that we can go back to the Environmental Facilities Corporation for what's left over to see if we can get any additional grants or low-interest loans to finance those additional improvements. The next item under our agenda here is a motion to authorize the destruction of the surplus check stock for the Katrine Lane Sewer Project checking account. This is in accordance with our document management protocols, the town supervisor will basically fill out a form and deliver the surplus documents to the town clerk, who will certify that they are being safely and securely disposed of through our locked and secured shred box. So may I have a motion to authorize the destruction?
So moved.
Second.
All those, roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow, Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. Supervisor's office, along with several of the councilmen, have been contacted by residents of Old Salk Hill Road relating to traffic issues very similar to the traffic issues that we observed in the last 2 years on Barbarossa Lane and Brabrant Road, directly across Salk Hill Road from Old Salk Hill Road. The town board discussed the matter at that time and made a request of the town clerk to write a letter to New York State Regional Traffic, the Regional Traffic Engineer at NISDOT Region 8 offices in Poughkeepsie for a review of the road with the eventual posting of a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. Mr. Petremol, you were involved in that. Do you have any comments on that for us? Frank?
Sorry, I had a problem getting unmuted. No, but it's pretty self-explanatory what the New York State DOT denied our request for those due to the shortness of the road, both of the roads. This is going to fall into the same play. Just going to send another letter. It's going to be months before it gets back, and it's going to come back with the same information, I believe.
Well, the bottom line is, we've had a request from the constituents.
Yeah.
We've done what we can do. And if the powers that be answer it in a certain manner, they answer it in a certain manner. Now, we had a discussion during caucus about other sources of traffic. Mr. Tutt, could you at least just bring the town board up to speed on the discussion that you and I had in reference to the uses of the various parcels along Old Salk Hill Road that may be contributing to these traffic problems?
Over the course of the past few years, the highest traffic volume came from the soccer fields. The new businesses were just approved. Their traffic flow per day is 2 to 4 cars. The landscape business, he's in the morning, he's out in the morning, and he's in the evening, 3 to 4 vehicles. So ultimately, we got a lot of complaints last year about the traffic generated by the soccer fields. So that will be addressed early this year.
Can you give us a brief idea as to how that's going to be addressed?
Currently, the operation of the fields is not a permitted use. They are coming to a workshop to attempt to create a permitted use, which point it will then go to planning, and planning can reel in all of these neighborhood concerns and either approve or deny. Until that happens, there will not be soccer games performed on those fields. Therefore, no traffic.
So I will open the floor to discussion by town board members about the various,
I would like Supervisor Eric, Councilman Kitchen, I'd like to speak on this topic.
please.
I talked to 2 residents today that live on Old Salk Hill Road who are opposed to any speed bumps being put in on their road. And I would let the record stand that I state that I also oppose any bumps being put on Old Salk Hill Road. Thank you.
I didn't want to bring that up because I knew the highway superintendent's response after 12 years. As we've discussed speed bumps in other places, that was basically a no. When the people that called me asked for the speed bumps, I explained to them that we would have problems in the wintertime plowing, and that it was not a desired improvement by the town highway superintendent. So
Thank you. Let the record reflect that I oppose the speed bumps. Thank you, Supervisor.
Other comments?
The possibility of the chief still on. He could put the speed machine down there, let the people know that we are interested in what's going on over there.
If next week, like Frank said earlier, next week's looking pretty good. Hopefully, the forecast is calling for the remainder of the season. I'll put it out next week. And then we can get a better idea what type of speeds we're talking about down there. Obviously, we've known from past experiences, perception is sometimes not reality.
Exactly.
The chief also had a conversation with me when this first came in about the possibility of increased enforcement when we were being subjected to the soccer matches.
I've had cars down there this week. Obviously, just the layout of the road is not a ideal spot to position them. More of a deterrent than anything.
Okay. Any other comments?
Nope, that's it.
Mr. Morrow, the last topic on our agenda relates to the New York State DEP, New York City DEP EIS statement for the Escopus Creek. You have been religiously attending the meetings for the last 10 years of the Ashokian Release Working Group, and I'll let you lead the conversation on this topic. John, did you hear me? John, I can't hear you. Your phone is on mute, John. Okay. Since the winter of 2010, 2011, when New York City DEP started using the release channel to relieve the Ashokian Reservoir of highly turbid water during the winter months, the Esopus Creek has been subjected to extreme periods of turbid water flow. Now, there have been numerous times where that water flow has been consistent and for a long period of time. And then there has been periods when we have been lucky and not have very much turbid water flow. During that entire previous 11 years, New York City has had an application pending before New York State for a filtration avoidance determination to avoid filtering the suspended clays out of the water prior to sending it or when they receive it at Kensico in Westchester County. Currently, the water, when it is received in Kensico, is being treated with chemicals that cause the clays to fall out. It is creating an environmental condition in the Kensico Reservoir that the New York State DEC has found unacceptable. And they are now seeking alternate ways to control the suspended clays. One of the primary ways to avoid sending the suspended clays to the Kensico Reservoir is to discharge those clays into the Esopus Creek and let them flow naturally out into the Hudson River and to the Atlantic Ocean. And there are consequences to those actions to the environment and the economy in the various communities below the dam. We have witnessed it. We have witnessed repeatedly the adverse impacts. We've had several council members take canoe trips and boat trips up and down the Esopus, take numerous pictures and record the erosion that is taking place along the banks, the fallen trees that are coming into the waterway, preventing clear passage and also acting as a deterrent to clear passage of the water. We are also seeing the effects on our residents in the fact that they are seeing decreased home values because of the decreased attractiveness of the Esopus Creek. Speculation also has it, and there are no clear scientific studies that I'm aware of on the effects of the flora and fauna in the Esopus Valley by the releases of the turbid water. And in discussions with several people, that seems to be the major issue of the DEC's environmental impact statement, as they have not conducted a sufficient in-depth study of the environmental impacts of the turbid discharges on the environment. The town board understands that this matter is of great importance to the community, and we would like sufficient time to construct a response to the environmental impact statement, which is required to be responded to by June. That is a response in such a manner that it holds its own weight in the ring, so to speak. We don't want to put up some objections for the sake of putting up objections. We want to put up our beliefs that are supported by the facts of what we see on the ground and have an intelligent conversation with the DEC and DEP about getting solutions put forward. So I open the floor to other members of the board.
Well, I like to say one thing, Jim. You know, they let the water out so hard and with so much water that with all the dead trees that are on the bottom of the Esopus, they still move. And there's certain points of the Esopus where the fellows that were out in the canoe couldn't even get through. The trees piled up so high. So those certain sections of the land, they flood. People in those areas do get water onto their properties. I had mentioned before in our caucus that when you have a fish tank with some stones in it, you keep adding stones to that fish tank, the water is going to overflow sooner or later. So it's the speed that they set out and where everything piles up at the end. And this has been going on for numerous 50 years probably. You know.
I'd like to add a comment. The past 10 years, I cross over the Lakes Mills Bridge and all I see is brown water. And this is really inhabited. The fishing, the ability to feed on their natural resources, given the turbidity in the water. So I concur with Councilman Morrow on that issue.
Mr. Van Cleef?
If I could just add, I am in full support of the concerns that people have. I just want to make sure that when we sign on to this, we are confident in the facts. We know that the banks of the creek are eroding in because of the water flow. But for instance, I am not yet confident that the color of the water is affecting whether the fish are there, because I want to admit that there's fish there. I fished it, and the recent eagle seems to be pretty happy with what he's eating out of the creek. However, it is a big concern. I just want to make sure that our town solicits and looks for all the help we can to make sure that we know the facts in this and make sure we have an argument that's strong so that we can go against the DEP with a strong argument, not just the fact that it's brown water. I don't like the Willy Wonka water, as anyone does, I hate it, but let's just make sure we understand what the facts are.
Supervisor, I would like to know if there's any studies that have been done locally on the effects of the Lower Esopus River, Lower Esopus Creek, and the fish and wildlife that live there, and also to mention the recreational potential for the town, which years ago, I remember 10 years ago, we had boats out there, people on kayaks and enjoying the recreational benefits of the Lower Esopus. I can't see that. I don't see that activity going on much anymore. Any thoughts?
We will convey though, we'll take all that together and mix it together and see what we come up with, because right now I can't tell you that I'm knowledgeable of any studies that could answer your questions.
If we could do anything about looking to some other people in the community that may have some involvement, I know John's been working on it a lot, and if we could look for some money, that we can get a study done, that we can get confirmed. I would think this is important enough that we get our state people involved to help. It's not just our town, it's the county and it's the towns surrounding us. So I think we got to get a group effort on this.
I would like to ask Councilman Van Cleek if you think it would be worth the effort to send letters out that border the Esopus Street to get their input from the neighbors that reside along the creek. Changes that they've experienced over the last 10 years.
Anything like that would be helpful. So I have to admit that I have not been that involved in this. John Morrow's been a lot more involved. But I just want to make sure that when our town goes up to fight this, that we come up strong and knowledgeable, and that we have the facts so that we are not wasting our time. This has been years and years and years. And if we can join together and get a resolution that's good for everybody, that would be the best.
Mr. Morrow, are you on, and can we, do you have any comments to add? Still can't hear him. Your phone is still on mute, so. Okay. Seeing that we're gonna have to take this up at a future meeting when we're in person so that we can get around these technical issues. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our scheduled agenda for tonight. I will open the floor to public comment to the members of the public who are on this meeting. Mr. Obajeski.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Regis Obajeski, 170 Ledge Road, Town of Ulster. I just want to add to the previous discussion that there is also an effect of neighboring municipalities drinking water that draw their drinking water from the Hudson River. Esopus came out publicly. The town supervisor then said that her water filtration plant was clogging and being stressed to its limit, and that has to do with the turbidity in the Hudson River. So that's the water coming through the lower Esopus into the Hudson River, and then traveling downstream on the Hudson River. I think there was perhaps 2 of the 7 mid-Hudson region towns that draw water that have signed memorializing resolutions to that effect. I would say that I would recommend that in the town's consideration of what to support or not to support, that it really looks to the experience of not just what's going on in the creek, but after the creek. And I don't know that we really need to reinvent a lot of the studies. I would look to some of the environmental agencies that have been involved and those that have spoken at the hearings, the February 4th and the March 3rd hearings. And Riverkeeper was among them. The executive director there spoke, I think, passionately about it, and so they have the scientists who have looked and can look at this a little bit more clearly, and perhaps they can even help the town of Ulster measure turbidity with the NTUs and FNUs, and maybe they have those materials that can gauge the turbidity levels that actually the DEP uses at the release channel. So using that same equipment. So I don't know that we need to put any resources into this, but there are some resources, that are available to us that I think we can lean on, and perhaps have some of that equipment can actually give us some fairly objective measurements.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, John.
I fixed it.
Mr. Kimball.
Yeah, Bill Campbell from the Daily Freeman. I have perspective question. Is in everything I heard said by each of the board members and the silence of John, but I've heard John at the hearings. Talking about doing the studies, if one takes this from the perspective that this is an applicant wishing to do something, not unlike any industry applicant who comes in and files an application before a planning board, that if a municipality wants to study something, just like everybody has said, would not the municipality be seeking to get those funds from the applicant? And now that John has audio, we hope, he could perhaps tell us if over the course of the past 10 years during the stakeholder groups meetings, which were conducted monthly or semi-monthly, whether those topics had actually been discussed as studies. And that's my question.
I'm not sure. Well, there have been companies hired to do various studies. I'm just a little curious about how independent they are from the person that hired them or the company that hired them.
In 2011, the DEC and the DOH imposed a consent decree on a New York City DEP. As a condition of that consent decree, which resulted into the interim release protocols that are now in effect and that the DEP operates under, a fine was levied by the state of New York against the city of New York. A portion of that money went to Ulster County, and through the Ashokan Release Working Group, there was a solicitation for professional engineers and consultants who would be hired and retained and paid for by Ulster County out of this money to review the reports that the applicant has the statutory requirement of providing to support his request under the environmental impact statement. And as of this afternoon, I confirmed with Dennis Doyle of the county that this firm was in fact retained and has been actively reviewing the work that, and I would say the limited work that has been produced by the DEP and provided to the county for their consultants' review. And that's where we stand today. And based upon the discussions that I had with the county today, the opinions that I heard from the professionals were that the DEP has not performed an in-depth review of the flora and fauna in the Esopus Valley and cannot, with any scientific basis, make a statement as to the effect of the turbid water flows on the environment.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes,
Laura?
related to what you said earlier, Supervisor, as far as, 40,000 residents here and millions down in the city, is just an example, I guess, of sacrificing a few for the benefit of many. I have concerns. I think we need to really put our foot down to the metal here and really study the effect of what's going on as far as the releases and the turbidity in the water. My comments. Thanks.
I think if someone took the time to study the historical documents as to how the Ashokan Reservoir came about, there'd be a long list of grievances by the local people as to how New York City conducted business in assembling the land and then forcing through the New York State Legislature the appropriate legislation for them to construct the Ashokan system in our community.
Understood. And my wife's my wife's family came from Bishop's Falls, which was the original site of the Shokan. They were forced out, and if they weren't out by the next day, the backhoes were coming and they were going to be tearing everything down. This seems like a heavy-handled thing by the DEP and New York City here, and us little guys up here really don't have much say. This has been going on for many years, and this seems like this could be an opportunity for us. We got to stand strong up here.
I think this attitude that they have displayed towards the inhabitants in this part of the state of New York was adequately summed up by former county executive Michael Hine in 2011 when he called the DEP an occupying nation.
Yeah, that's what he did.
So with
Well,
that,
we have a number of issues that we need to address. And like Jim said, we have to keep it reasonable where we can show what's going on and what needs to be done without overcomplicating things. But from what I understand, there have been a number of studies that were done that have been kept secret and have been foiled by organizations like Riverkeeper that DEP has refused to give them the information they've requested. But you have recreation, which has been destroyed. Nobody wants to swim in the creek. Very few people want to kayak in the creek anymore because of the turbidity. Fishing is, from talking to the fishermen, has been terrible. Clayton was saying the eagles have gotten some fish out of the creek. I have not personally witnessed that. I've seen the eagles flying over, but I'd love to see the eagles catch a fish in the creek, quite frankly. But
Laura, you had a question?
I did. I just want to lend my support to the conversation you just had. I think we do have to take a strong tact with DEC and get something happening to fix the issues with the Esopus. It's an important body of water for us for many reasons, and it just needs to be addressed finally. So, but I wanted to say something. I'm sad to hear that Officer Kilfoyle is leaving. She was really helpful to me at Sunset Garden when I had some issues over there with another resident. So I'm sad that she's leaving, and I wish her the best. So I just wanted to say that about her and acknowledge her good work with the department.
Thank you.
And if I could ask Chief Berardi a question about if he got any complaints about kids in this neighborhood where I live over on Catskill Avenue misbehaving yesterday.
Yes, I'm not familiar with anything yesterday, no. If
Okay.
you have anything in particular, if you want to reach out to you tomorrow,
Okay.
we can discuss it.
All right. I just think it should somehow be recorded. It's March. And if they're being creative now when we haven't even hit the summer yet, I kind of worry what they might get to. So I'll reach out to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Is it the residents on Gulf Terrace?
I don't think so. It was kids that I didn't recognize, and there were like six or eight of them together.
Yeah, just reach out for me tomorrow, Laura. We can talk about
Okay,
it.
will do. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, any other comments?
motion to adjourn.
Well, we have a motion to
I
adjourn.
just want to add one comment to John. John had spoken about the recreational aspects of the Esopus Creek, and I grew up in this town, and I remember growing up along the creek and fishing. The homes that John remembers along the creek, they all had docks, homes in the creeks, they had boats, and that's something we don't see anymore. So I just want to say again, I concur with John's comment.
Very good. We have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you in the first week in April. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.